Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Amina, and you are watching Life Chats. Listen, you can catch me on lifewomen.ca. That's LYFE women.ca. If you have not already, it will give you an idea of who I am and what it is that I do. So I'm so glad for you to be tuning in with me today, and we're going to talk life. I had a lady ask me a question about fighting temptation and how to fight it. So I started by giving her my own experience. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about fighting temptations and how to overcome, because them temptations are real, right? They could be so real. And listen, if anybody knows me, I'm quite a vulnerable person when it comes to talking about issues like this. I love to share my life experience. So if you find it a little profound, that's okay. This video is not for you. I'm talking to people who live real lives and are affected with real situations. I'm not trying to pretend. I'm not trying to put on a mask. And I hope, and my intention in all of these videos that I do, is that you won't either, is that you will find a friend in me. All right, so let's tackle this. Okay, so I remember now during my marriage, I was actually alone for 6 years. After 3 years of my marriage, I think it was about 3 years, my husband was no longer available, and he was away for 6 years, 6 good years. Here I am, I'm a single mother, okay, taking care of my 2 beautiful children, and I'm alone, no husband. You know, the tricky thing is this about my situation is that I was still fully married, and I was at the same time still fully single. What I mean by that is that, you know, when you have the opportunity to be single and legitimately single, you also have the option to talk to people of the opposite sex, right? You have the option to get to know other people outside of your gender. You know, you get to maybe even go on some romantic dates or whichever. So here I am, I'm stuck right in the middle. Because let me tell you something. If anybody tells you that they are single or they've been in my kind of situation and they never got tempted, I would kind of wonder about that. Because our human nature, it is very natural for us to need somebody. It is very natural for us to want to have that relationship with the opposite sex. It is very natural and normal for us to desire that. Because guess what? There comes a point when I don't always want to hang out with my girlfriends. I don't always want to sit across the table with my female friends. And just as fun as it is, I'm not saying that it's not great, it's awesome, it's amazing. But there were times when I just needed to be across the table or just be in the presence of a man. Okay? There were times when I was just tempted to just even go on a date. Not even for the sake of anything, but just to have the fellowship with a man. Okay? And if you've been in my boat, you understand that very clearly. But I couldn't, because I was still fully married. And these emotions didn't come on or take hold of me until maybe a good 4 years after my husband was away. So I was really good for 4 years. I was great. I was doing good. But in my 4th year, I started to get a little bit lonely. And I noticed that, okay, my kids, I love them so much. They bring me so much joy. And my girlfriends and my friends, you know, they were amazing to hang out with. But I found myself just wanting just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. I don't know if you hear me, but just a little bit more, you know. And so I came to, you know, and because of those feelings starting to stir up inside of me, I found situations would come my way. and opportunities would come my way. And so when I came face to face with a situation like that, and really there wasn't too many, but let's just say there was a few. And so I came to a place where, oh my goodness, this is an opportunity for me to kind of have that desire in me to just hang out with the opposite, with a man, and just to fulfill that simple desire. But that's the thing, is that desires don't just stay desires. They grow until they begin to become a flame, and they begin to explode into something so much more. And I knew that, and I had that understanding. And so therefore, one of the things that I used, and this is for you out there who are facing temptations, is you need to be honest with yourself. We all get vulnerable. Loneliness is a very real thing. And it's not something that you have to be ashamed of if you are, or if you get to that place of loneliness. My goodness, you could even be in a home where your husband is present or your wife is present and still be lonely. Trust me, you can be in that situation. And even temptations can come in that type of circumstance. Loneliness is very real. And so one of the biggest tools that we have is honesty, being honest with ourselves. Where am I? What am I feeling? What is going on in my heart? What am I tempted to do? What is my vulnerability right now? What am I feeling like I could just scoop up, wrap up in my arms right now? Be honest. Be honest with yourself. That's where it starts. Number 2, you got to be honest with God. Being honest with God means that you're coming to His feet immediately. And I say the key word immediately, because if you delay when you are facing temptation, it's almost like there is a time frame. The minute you feel that temptation is the minute you got to be honest and run to the feet of God. Because you don't want to give that thing room to grow, because the minute you give that thing room to grow, the enemy is going to start to creep in and play on your mind, and he is good at that. So you need to run to the feet of God and tell Him, God, this is what's happening. He already knows. He already knows, but He's waiting for you to admit and to come to Him. Now, see, you might say, well, why does God even allow us to be tempted in the first place? Why not? Why shouldn't we be tempted? In my temptation, or in my weakness, God shows Himself mighty. He shows Himself strong. When I am tempted, I realize that I don't have strength on my own. My strength is in God. When I'm tempted, I am also saying that, God, I depend on You. And so that is why God, I believe, allows us to be tempted, so that we can run to Him, so that we can learn to depend on Him. And I promise you, God will always, when you learn those 2 principles, God will always help you through it. He will help you through it. So 1 Corinthians 10:13 says this. Let me just read it out for you. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. Except what is common to mankind. That means that everybody across the board gets tempted. Everybody across the board. That's why you see presidents, people in the office of even a president being tempted to sleep with a woman. You see men who already have obtained billions of dollars still scheming to make more. Temptation has no prejudice. You could be a child. You could be an adult, a woman, a man. You could be rich, poor. Temptation hits us all. And that's what it says. And it says God is faithful. Oh my goodness. God is faithful. That is so encouraging. God is faithful. It continued to say that He will not let you. Are you hearing this? Oh my goodness. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. So that tells me there's a level of temptation that will not surpass your ability to handle. And last but not least, it ends with this. But when you are tempted. Doesn't say if, says when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. So that you can endure it. So that you can endure it. So that you can survive the whole ordeal of that temptation that is coming your way. So that you can come past it. So that means sometimes God doesn't directly, sometimes he can. Oh, I've had experiences where God has just immediately taken that temptation, done. This is not in your ability to handle, so I take it out. And there's temptations where he allows us to kind of run the process with it because he wants us to also learn the practical tools to overcome that temptation. So when that thing comes around or shows its ugly head once again, guess what? We know. Shoot, I've learned this before. I know how to handle this, right? We've learned some skills. God is faithful. So I leave you with that word. God is faithful. God is faithful. When you are fighting temptations, be honest with yourself, be honest with God, and run to his feet immediately without delay. I hope you've been blessed. Catch me at lifewomen.ca. Thank you so much for tuning in, and catch me next time.